Hello everyone, and welcome to this, which is our first webinar of the year. I'm Dave Tompkins. I'm Chair of the Professional Practice and Development Committee at the British Society of Soil Science. You may know that committee otherwise as the PPDC, that's what it stands for. I'm also a member of the Board of Trustees, and you can find my profile on the BSQ's British Society of Soil Sciences website. And now, before I welcome our presenters, I'd like to say a few words about the British Society of Soil Science as hosts of today's webinar. We are an established international membership organisation and charity, and we're committed to the study of soils in their widest possible aspects. And you'll hear about some of those this morning or this afternoon. We bring together those working within academia and have a growing membership amongst practitioners implementing soil science in industry and those simply with a keen interest in soils. So we're open to anybody with a professional, amateur or other interest in soils as a topic. We plan to host 10 webinars during 2025, so keep an eye out on our website for further details. And before we begin the webinar formally, I've got some basic housekeeping items to run through. As there are so many of you online here today, all your microphones have been muted. We'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so if you do have questions, then just pop them in the little question box, which should appear near the top right of your screen, and I'll be posing those questions to our speakers at the end of both of the presentations. There is a raise your hand button, but we're not planning to use that today unless one of the presenters specifically asks for a show of hands during their presentation. Also worth noting, today's presentation has been awarded BASIS and Enroso CPD points, so if you're registered with either of those bodies, please contact us, the admin at Soils email address directly after the event, and we'll make sure that you get awarded those points. Finally, please be aware that we are recording today's presentation and it will appear in future on our YouTube channel. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters for today, who will be delivering a joint presentation as the new BSQ presidential team. Our first presenter is the new BSQ president, Professor Paul Hallett, and Paul works at the University of Aberdeen, where he coordinates soil science teaching to senior undergraduates and postgraduate students. His research is focused on developing solutions to agricultural and environmental threats to soil health, both in the UK and internationally. Paul will speak first on his ambitions and plans as president of the Society over the next 2 years, and will also discuss the current state of UK soil science and how the Society can play a vital role in addressing pressing global challenges. Our second speaker is the new president-elect of the Society, Dr. Lizzie Sagoo. Lizzie is Associate Managing Director of the ADAS Sustainable Agricultural Systems business. She's got a specialist knowledge of soil and nutrient management and diffuse pollution of air and water from agricultural systems. And Lizzie enters as president-elect following long-standing roles in the BSQ Council and representing the Society at events like Groundswell and Open Farm Sunday. Lizzie will introduce her professional experience and how it will contribute to the development of the Society in future, particularly in terms of education, outreach and career development for practicing soil scientists. So without any further ado, I'll hand the floor to Paul.
Okay, thank you very much, David. So it's a pleasure to be here to present the kind of vision, I guess, for the BS Cubed over the next few years. So what we're planning to present today is, first of all, both Lizzie and I will give a brief introduction just about ourselves. I'm going to give an overview about the BS Cubed and basically what we're composed of. Then I want to do a bit of a review of UK soil science, looking at how we can raise the profile of soil science both in the UK and internationally, how we can serve our members, and then also how we secure that future expertise that we need in the discipline as well. Lizzie's going to focus more on bridging from science over to practice. She's also going to discuss outreach and impact activities as well. So who am I? Well, if you look at that picture on the right, you can see that I've been around for a while. So that's me as an undergraduate student sampling peat in the middle of Canada. I've got my hood up because I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes in that picture. But when I started university at the University of Guelph in Canada, I sat through first year lectures in soil science and I wasn't really that interested. It was, very theoretical. There wasn't really much that I was taking back from it. But then I went and got a summer job where I was in an environmental consulting company. And I think that the kind of breadth of different experiences I've had will let me see the society and how it's relevant to various members. So I worked as a soil consultant. I was out in the field with people who were extremely experienced in looking at different processes in soils. There were projects looking at phosphorus pollution of the Great Lakes and also damage to soils by pipelines. And I decided then that this is the career I wanted to pursue. I took more courses in soil science, worked as a consultant when I graduated, and then decided that to get ahead, I needed to do something in postgraduate education. So I looked around. I was planning to do a master's. I realized I could get straight into a PhD. And I started a PhD at SOSA Research Institute. And I stayed at research institutes from that PhD all the way through to leaving the James Hutton Institute back in 2013. So I've got experience in research institutes. They've got a different research remit. It's both that bridge from kind of more fundamental science right through to practice and also the application and policy. I wanted to do some teaching and experience the university environment, so an opportunity came up in Aberdeen. And in this post, I teach everything from first year soil science all the way up through masters, where I coordinate or the tutor for the MSc soil science, and through to PhD students as well. And my research is bridging kind of physical and biological interactions in soil. It's both from a fundamental end and then also applying that to address some of the grand challenges that we have on soils. So just on BS Cubed and who we are, David's already introduced the society and just the breadth of people that we represent. So it's everything from academia, scientists, people in industry, and students, and anyone really with an interest in soils. But it's been around since 1947, so it's very well established. I realized that I'm the 40th president of the BS Cubed. The past 2 years, I was helped considerably by Jack Hannam, who was the past president, and Bruce Lascelles, who was the president before her. And I've got really big boots to fill, both from the work that they did. And when I look back at the kind of history of people who've been presidents, it is a really impressive group of people who I'm following on from. Just to put it into numbers, and some of these surprised me when I became president-elect and started looking at the society a bit more. We've actually got over 900 members now. They're in a variety of different membership categories that I'll discuss more later on. But we expect these numbers are going to grow even more. We may even break 1,000 this year. With those members, we give them regional representation within 6 regional groups across the UK. The society has grown considerably in terms of its professionalism. We've now got an executive team with 6 people. One of the best outcomes, I think, from the time I served with Jack and Bruce was the appointment of Andy Morris as the new executive director. He's someone who really understands the society, its full breadth, and he's got amazing vision for where the society can go and how to grow it as well. We have a board that involves all of the presidential team plus 3 external experts. We've got David Tompkins, who's chair of today, as a professional practice person, someone who's an expert in finance, and someone also is an expert in policy. And we're looking for another person to possibly join board, more with skills in either marketing, creative industries, or in education. Council is really the engine of the BS Cubed. There's 12 volunteers doing a lot of work to help the society, and they've got a lot of assistance from other people as well across the society. And that's something we want to encourage and build more over the coming years. And I'll talk about these more, but we've got 2 scientific journals, the European Journal of Soil Science and Soil Use and Management. So this is the structure. The presidents and that board of trustees are kind of in one corner at this top left here. We interact a lot with the executive director, and then through all of this down to council, and then council feeds in from the regional groups, from an outreach committee, an early careers committee, grants and awards committee, professional practice committee, and a publications committee as well. So at the core of BS Cubed is science. Science is only useful if it's got a purpose. So BS Cubed goes way beyond just that science. We apply it in practice. We learn from practitioners. We are using it to guide policy, and we're also using policy to guide some of the science that we conduct. And all of this works together to look at education and outreach. So getting people interested in soils so that we've got that next generation, so we've got public acceptance and public support, which then all feeds back to either scientific support or good policies or good practices. So basically, our main aim is to make sure that soils are understood and that soils are protected and used as effectively as possible. Back in 2022, when we hosted the World Congress of Soil Science, I presented a talk at a session from UK Research and Innovation. And in that, I looked across how the UK was performing in global soil science. So this isn't a very in-depth search, but I just used the search term soil in Web of Science, and I looked at the previous 10 years and how different countries were performing. And the landscape today is very different from the landscape 20 years ago. So if you look at this, China is really dominating in terms of the number of publications. USA, who used to be dominant, are still quite high, but they're trailing China. The UK is down at 31,000 versus 150,000 publications out of China. So based on our population, we're publishing quite a good number. We published 5.5% of the world's soil science output. We're comparable to countries like Germany, where there's been considerable recent investment. But what I want to point out is if we look at these papers in a bit more depth, the UK produced 18% of the world's highly cited papers within soil science. So these are the papers that many people are referring to and many people are using to guide their research. So we do bat way above our level, and soil science is excellent within the UK. A lot of the work that we do and a lot of those publications are not done in isolation, of course. We do them internationally with other people. And soils are at the heart of sustainable development goals. And you can see in this graphic here, we've got an inner circle, which are the ones where soils are the most relevant to. So things like zero hunger and life on land. And then many other sustainable development goals where we've got indirect impacts on them as well, like life below water. And now we're at a point in soil science where it is really recognized as one of the world's real grand challenges, where we need to understand these systems in much more detail and gather much more evidence. We have a very strong global presence from the British Society of Soil Science, and we're continuing to try to build it. So one of the real big culminating activities we had in that was hosting the World Congress of Soil Science in 2022 in Glasgow. This was a really difficult conference to deliver because it was just delivered post-COVID. It got us very good links within the International Union of Soil Sciences. We're in a really good position right now because Bruce Lascelles, a past president, is the incoming president of that organization. On the back of our patron, the Duke of Gloucester, who is president of the World Congress of Soil Science, we've come up with a new award. And this is the Duke of Gloucester Overseas Award, and it's going to be awarded basically to develop links between our society members and members within other societies that may exist within developing countries. You'll hear more about that award quite soon. We also have a lot of international activities planned. In April, we're going to send the journal editors to the European Geosciences Union Assembly in Vienna. They're going to deliver sessions on publishing papers. They're hopefully going to attract some new papers to the journals as well. There's Rhizosphere 6, which is being hosted in June in Edinburgh. There's Eurosoil, which brings together all the European societies of soil science together in September. And in November, I've been persuaded to go to Brazil to attend COP30 as well. We also don't work in isolation. So we've got that International Union of Soil Science link, but we also look at different organizations as well around the world, like the Global Soil Partnership and organizations like Campaign for Soil Health, where we're taking the science and putting it into good practice and the good development of policies. Now, across the UK, we have science that's funded by a huge number of different donors. So UK and Research and Innovation is a big one. There's also UK International Development, which is starting to fund more work, various philanthropic organizations, international organizations as well. We've had things like nitrogen hubs that have been funded, or the nitrogen centers, the UK-China Critical Zone Observatories, which brought together researchers from different countries as well. And we also, as groups of scientists, have direct impact in a lot of countries. That picture that you can see there is Gedahun Yakub. He's an Ethiopian scientist who finished his PhD in the past year. And he's talking to one of his PhD supervisors, a British Society of Soil Science member, Joe Smith. And basically they're learning from each other and tackling aspects of land degradation within Ethiopia. Europe is obviously very important to us as well. Europe is putting a lot of effort into the study of soils, the protection of soils. There's the EU missions. I know a lot of people were writing proposals for the recent round of funding in the autumn. There's also EGAP soil as well. One of the activities I think we really need to praise from one of our editors over the past few years was this special issue. So this was Jenny Dungate working closely with these investigators who are part of EGAP soil. These comprised some real leading scientists, people who are very influential within Europe as well. And she pulled together a really impressive special issue with different articles within it. Now, at the basic level, this meant we had more papers. It meant we got more distribution of our journals. It meant the impact factor went up as well. But it also was an incredibly good, approach to expand the recognition of the society and for us to develop those links with people within Europe to have greater impact as well. So these journals are the voice of the BS Cubed, and they are incredibly important. Over the past year, or over the past few years, we've been looking at the strategies of these journals in much more detail. So the two journals are European Journal of Soil Science. It just celebrated its 75th birthday. We cut the cake at the conference in Cardiff back in December. And then we've got Soil Use and Management, which is about to celebrate its 40th anniversary, and we've got activities planned for that. If you look over at the two journals and the two editors, you can see it's Jenny Dungate for European Journal of Soil Science and Leo Condren, who's just been appointed recently to Soil Use and Management. We've made a conscious decision to have editors who are invested in the society. So you can see they both have those initials, FI and then Soil Sci next to their names. That means they're fellows of the Institute of Soil Science, which means they're fellows of our society. It means they've reached the highest level that they can, and that they are recognized leaders who also have been members for quite a few years and know that the journals are integral to the society's development and also as our voice. What we want to do is do much more for these journals. So basically advertise them much more, facilitate things like that visiting of the EGU so that they can attract more papers to the journals as well. And we also have plans for things like podcasts to improve the reach of some of the papers as well. The major funder for papers that appears from UK scientists within those types of journals is UKRI. And soil science occupies a slightly complex position because we bridge across between various research councils. We don't have one home within them. And just as a quick search through the grants databases online, we can look at the levels of funding that we've received. So we look at over the past 25 years, NERC's given about £290 million to soil science. BBSRC, a lot of this won't be specifically just on soils, but it's about £500 million. And currently, there's about £56 million from NERC over 97 projects, and about £100 million from the BBSRC as well. Now, it's been recognized by UKRI that soils don't fit into a certain bubble or a certain research council. They set up the Soil Security Program back in 2015. And this was really one of the first big initiatives they had to try to bring together cross-council research, have a defined program, and really focus on soils. They funded also a critical zone program between UK and China from 2015 to 2020. That brought together UK and China. It also brought in researchers from other disciplines, which is why it's gray. Signals in the Soil, which brought together more of NERC and the EPSRC, the Engineering Research Council, from 2019 to 2022. And most recently, Land Use for Net Zero, which goes way beyond just soils, but soils and their broader importance within land use as well. If we look at that Land Use for Net Zero, that's not just UKRI. It's working across with the devolved administrations and also within agricultural departments within those. These are another major source of funders, a major source of the demand for our evidence as well. And one of the things that I think Jack Hannam achieved really successfully within her time as president was working really well across all of these different devolved administrations, linking them into the society and really showing how our science can guide policy and also how the science can guide practice. So the other thing I want to talk about today is just how do we serve the members? So this is what I mentioned. We've got over 900 members. There's about 300 full members, and we've got about 277 early career members and various members of different categories as well. One of our new categories are corporate members, and this basically allows industry to have a membership for their whole entire organization within the society. But there's a few activities we've got planned. We really want to horizon scan who these members are. So where do they come from? What are their jobs? And then more importantly, who's missing from that membership? I had a quick look at all the people who are called professor of something related to soil science, and we're missing a third of them from our membership. So what is it that we're not offering? What is it that we need to offer to get them in as members as well? We had a survey last year, and we need to act on the feedback from that. And there were various things that the people asked us to act on, but they also showed very high satisfaction with what the BS Cubed was offering as well. The other thing that we're going to do is draw much more on the expertise of our members to represent the BS Cubed. We often get asked specific questions. Sometimes we need to research the answers, and a much easier way of doing it is basically to look across our membership and to get their responses directly. The other thing that we need to think of is we've got different membership categories over here. We've got some active category-specific activities already, but do we need to develop these more? So I'll pick on one of the new membership categories. That's the technical grade. So these are for technicians in soil science. We've got 25 people signed up to that already. There's far more than 25 technicians working in soil science across the UK. So what do we need to make the society more relevant to them? So is it specific discussion groups? What can we do within our conferences? Should we set up certain workshops or sessions? And then can we get this network developed much more as well? The other categories to look at are the early career and the full members. And you can see that the numbers are actually quite similar between these. And this means that we're losing a lot of these early career members from when they join all the way through to whether or not they sign up as full members. And the EC committee is the one thing that is probably one of our most vibrant and kind of active parts of the whole entire BS Cubed. This has got a group of really, really active, committed people. They really, give some vibrancy to the society, and it's something that we really, really support through things like the EC conference, where we essentially fund that from society reserves. But how can we improve this retention? What is putting people off? And then also, are we losing full members? And if we are, why are we losing these people as well? Something I'm really embedded in is post-secondary education. So I mentioned that I teach everything from first year students all the way through to people with PhDs. And I think we don't have a really good understanding of how much soil science is taught within the UK, what's taught at different institutions, and how we can help each other as well in achieving that. The picture at the bottom left is actually a lab practical I do. This is to all of the students in biological sciences at Aberdeen, plus a few others from the School of Geography. So I get 180 students into a lab where I get to give them hands-on lab activities. And what we're trying to do at this in first year is get them interested in soil science. Most people, you can see in this big white box up here, enter soil science not directly to study soil science. They might study something else, and then they get the interest in soil science as the degree develops. Now, in this lab practical, I've got the advantage that Tom Beatty developed loads of lab practicals during his time in Aberdeen, and I've developed from activities that he had to make nice hands-on activities that even if the students don't find an interest in soils, they at least find that practical interesting as well. Through to MSc, we've got a lot of people entering soil science not directly from a soil science training background. They might be doing an MSc in policy or in data or modeling, increasingly in things like artificial intelligence. What do we need to offer these types of people to make sure that they can also develop into a good career within soil science. There's traditional routes in MSc soil science. There's Edinburgh, Cranfield, and Aberdeen all have programs on offer. Can we get more of these on offer across the UK? And there's also a huge group of people who've gone and worked directly in industry. They're still working in industry. Taking time out to take a traditional MSc might not work for them. So the Society has set up this level 7 apprenticeship, which allows people to enter and get training from that route as well. PhD soil science, I think, is going quite well. We have a lot of people being trained in that area, but we don't have, and what we had a few years ago with the STARS training program was a subject-specific training. And I think we need to work more with UKRI to try to expand that and get some sort of continuation as well, because there are specific skills that we need to teach that people from areas like this in the MSCs that aren't directly in soil science would really benefit from. So what I think we need to do is look across the UK post-secondary education offering in soil science, what's being taught, what isn't being taught. Can we set standards that people should adhere to? Can we also give a shop where students who might have an interest in soil science can just go in and they can look at options all the way across the UK to think of which type of program suits them the best? On the right, I've got something that Jess Potts published just 2 days ago on LinkedIn, but it's a blog from her, and it's through this early careers committee that she published this, and it just talks about her career in soil science. So can we get more of these case studies from members, and this way we can attract students to the discipline? There's essential skills in soil science. We've got some of these up on the website as well. I think we need to keep revisiting these so that BS Cubed can set the standard of what's needed from soil scientists, really to tackle some of these challenges that we have. One thing I think we really should work on are shared resources. Many of the people listening to this will be soil scientists. Many of the people who teach soil science at introductory level won't have training in that background or training specifically in soil science. Can we come up with resources these people can access easily? If they've got resources they access easily, they're more likely to teach it. Can we have some kind of exciting soils teaching really that's on easily accessible to some of these people as well? And then, as I mentioned, I think we've got some discipline specific challenges. I think things like the STARS program, we should really be trying to keep that going and having something new put into there. And also, can we offer any specialist courses in soil science that aren't available at the moment, which are aimed at PhD students as well? So I'm going to end there and pass over to Lizzie, who's going to start sharing her slides now. But she's going to talk a lot more about how we actually get people before they enter a degree interested in soils, our broader outreach activities, and also taking science and putting it into practice. So over to Lizzie.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so thank you, and thanks, Paul, and thanks to everyone for joining. So just first of all, a bit of a background on me. So I'm a soil scientist and director at ADAS. I joined the soils team at ADAS in 2003, following a PhD that I did with Pippa Chapman at the University of Leeds. Most of the work I do at ADAS is research and consultancy, focused on improving soil and nutrient management, and most of that work is agricultural soil science, focused on things like soil quality, nutrient management, recycling organic materials for land. We do a lot of work on manures, diffuse pollution of air and water, and more recently, more involved in precision farming techniques to improve soil and nutrient management. So I joined the Society when I started my PhD, probably about 25 years ago now, and I'm on a few of the committees as well. So I've been on the Outreach Committee, the Grants and Awards Committee, and the South East England Regional Discussion Groups for a few years. I'm really keen to raise the importance of soils and promote soils to a wider audience, and in particular with school children. So I'm a STEM ambassador. Some of you may have heard of this scheme. So STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths, and the STEM Ambassador Scheme. It's a fantastic scheme that links people working in STEM subjects with schools and colleges, really with the aim of trying to encourage more people into STEM careers, but also to open people's eyes to the massive range of options there are out there that people can get involved with. So following on from where Paul left off, I want to talk a bit about what the Society are doing in terms of education and outreach. This is an important area of the Society's bigger vision and strategy. So supporting and encouraging the education of soil science, inspiring future generations of soil scientists, and ensuring high standards of professional practice for those working with soils. These are three key objectives in the Society's strategy. We probably split the education piece down between education, training and CPD for continued professional development of existing members, and then sort of education in schools. Under CPD activities, you can see I've jotted a few things down there. So we've got our Working with Soils training courses, which the Society run, and I've got a couple of slides on those. We've got the Zoom into Soil webinar series, of which you're on one now, and we've also got the annual conference and the regional group meetings. So this year, the annual conference will be in Manchester in December, and throughout the year, we hope that there'll be a series of regional soil discussion groups meetings. This might be a good point to mention that from January 2026, all of our full and fellow members will be required to submit details of their CPD activities for 2025. So there is more information about this on the website and will be circulated in newsletters. The Society and many of our members are also actively engaged in activities to support soil science in schools and outreach activities to try and raise the profile of soil science and the importance of soils with the wider public. So starting with the training courses, so we run our own training courses under the banner of Working with Soils, aiming to encourage the education of soil science and to ensure high standards of professional practice. Details of these are on the website, and the QR code is there. If you scan that, that will take you to the relevant page. So the courses all put on, they're run by experienced British Society of Soil Science members. There is a small cost to the training, but it's kept as low as possible, and it really just covers the cost of delivering the course. It's worth flagging that if we've got early career members who are interested in these courses but can't cover the cost via their university or employer, they can apply for support via the Brian Chambers Soil Fund, and there's details of this on the grants and awards page of the website. So these are the three training courses that we've got. So we've got a practical introduction to soils in Great Britain. This is a 2-day in-person course targeted at people who want to improve their field soil description and identification skills. It's a mix of classroom and in-field training. And you can see here that we've got courses planned this year for April in Wales and the end of October in Bedfordshire. The second one, we've got an introduction to soil classification. Again, this is a 2-day course. This one is hybrid. It aims to provide a basic understanding of the principles and methodology behind soil classification and how we can use this to support sustainable management of soils. The next course is at the beginning of April in Bedfordshire. And finally, we've got an introduction to agricultural land classification. This is a 2-day in-person course. It's delivered by ALC experts in Natural England and the Welsh Government, and it covers background to and the technical basis to the current ALC guidelines. So information on all these courses can be found on the website under education and training, and Don might pop a few links in the chat as well. New to this year, we've also got a soil judging competition later this year. So soil judging is relatively new to the UK, although it is popular internationally, and we did include it as part of the World Congress in 2022. So Danny Rush and Jay Ryan from our Early Careers Committee are organising this event in July in Nottingham. It will be sort of 2 days of training on interpretation and description of soils, and then 1 day of competition. In the competition, then soil types and so that people will be judged in the field by a panel of experts on their descriptions of the soil types and the horizons. So I think it should be good fun. It's open to all early career members. There'll be more information available soon and also on the website. So the Zoom into Soil webinar series as well, this started during COVID. seems a long time ago now. I mean, it's proved to be hugely popular and successful, and it's a very effective way for us as a society to disseminate knowledge and shared knowledge on soils. So you're on one of these now. So you know a bit about the series, but today's format is a bit different. So this is actually our 34th Zoom into Soils. The other 33 are all available to watch on our YouTube channel. You can see a few sort of the title slides from some of the other ones that we've had in the past. Huge range of topics, including things like carbon sequestration, peatlands, brownfields, ALC, contaminated soils, microplastics, and much more. So a few stats for you. So last year we had over 1,000 attendees join our Zoom into Soils webinars live, and just under 4,000 views on YouTube. So we've got 10 Zoom into Soils planned for this year. So we aim for one per month, with the exception of August, when many are on holidays, and December, when we've got our conference. So on to education. So the Society will continue to support soil science education in schools by providing educational materials and supporting our members to engage in educational activities. So there's a range of educational material available to download from the website. This includes material suitable for a range of ages, right from primary Key Stage 1 upwards. This material is suitable for you to take into schools, use at home, or use for other groups like Brownies or Scouts. On the slide there, I've put some images of some of the leaflets that you can download. So it includes things, it includes leaflets like, you can see the examples there, The Soils of Britain and Life on Earth. But we've also got some leaflets that have got suggested activities. So for example, we've got there the jam jar experiment. There's a few of these on the website, and these are all great and can form the basis of a practical session. And more recently, building on these sort of downloadable soil resources that we've got, the Society have produced a number of soil science loan boxes, of which you can see a picture of one in the corner of the slide. So these loan boxes include all the material needed to deliver a practical session on soil science to children. So they've got different types of soil and the material needed for the jam jar experiment, where you put some soil in a jam jar, you shake it up, and you can see how the layers filter out. And also something that we call the super sponges experiment, where children can compare how much water different types of soil can store. So anyone can request one of these loan boxes to deliver a session. It'll be sent out to you and then returned after the session. So it's the sort of thing, if any of you are asked by, say, children's schools whether you could go in and talk about what you do, I mean, this might be something that you could request, and then you could do a slightly more practical session. So since the first loan box was put together in 2023, they've been loaned out so far 15 times. We're really keen to increase this over the next couple of years. Recently, we took one of these loan boxes to a primary school in Cardiff to deliver a soil science session before the annual conference that was in that city in December. And I think we've got another one on loan that's just gone out to someone this week. I'd also like to flag here that the Society, we've mentioned already a couple of the different grants. We do have an outreach grant that people can apply to if they need funds to support soil science educational activities. So for example, if they needed to buy some equipment to deliver a session, and information on all of those are on the website under the grants and awards section. So the last couple of slides I've got are on some of the outreach activities that we're involved with. So if there's anyone on the call that isn't familiar with Open Farm Sunday, this is a national event run by LEAF on a Sunday in June every year, when farmers across the country open their gates to the public so they can discover more about food and farming. It's been hugely successful. Since the first Open Farm Sunday in 2006, over 2,000 farmers across the country have opened their gates and welcomed over 3 million people onto farms for this annual day. As an event, it's very relevant to us as a society, as soil is the farmer's most important asset, and we've been really pleased to work with LEAF to support the event. We've had a number of our members attend farm events to talk about soils. You can see some photos from some of the events on this slide here. Last year, Leaf invited us along to one of their training sessions that they ran for farmers. So we were able to go along and speak directly to farmers to give them ideas of the sorts of things that they could do on their farms to engage the public with talking about soils. This year's event is planned for the 8th of June. Anyone could attend the events. They're really interesting. So, have a look and go along. But if there's anyone on the call that's interested in getting involved, please get in touch with the office. And finally, the Groundswell show. So Groundswell is a regenerative agricultural show, or festival as it's been badged, because there is music, food and drinks into the evening. Groundswell, it's a mix of workshops and talks and a large number of exhibition stands as well. The event is attended by farmers, researchers and others from across the food and agricultural industry. The British Society of Soil Science first attended in 2001. We have a stand and importantly, we have a soil pit. Our aim in attending is to engage with members and also raise the profile of the Society with a broader audience. Everyone that attends Groundswell has got a keen interest in soil, so it's very relevant to us, and the soil pit is always a big draw for people. This year, the event is on the 2nd and 3rd of July at Weston Farm near Hitchin. So if anyone is attending, please come along and see us. So hopefully that just gives you a flavour of some of the activities that we're involved with, we're continuing with, and the sorts of things we're keen to do more of. So back over to you, David.
Super, thank you, Paul and Lizzie, very much indeed for that. We are now obviously in the Q&A section of this webinar. I have been monitoring the Q&A as we've been going. There have been a couple of questions on membership, particularly eligibility of those studying or practicing soil science outside the UK. There are no geographical constraints to BSQ membership. All I'd say is you just need to be sure that you select the category of membership that's appropriate to you. Those criteria are set out on the website, and then just click through the links. Some of the membership applications come through to us in the Professional Practice Committee for review. Others go to the Early Careers Committee for review. So yeah, no geographical constraints. Just follow the links on the website. But if you have any questions, the team is very friendly and happy to answer questions. So just email admin@soils, and they'll respond very quickly. There is a question, it's a half question from Willie in the chat around the increasing interest in artists and soils. Let me just pull that up. Thank you, Willie. Any plans? So the question is, does the Society have any plans for engaging with arts and culture, particularly following the World Congress in 2022? Potentially a really good way of engaging with members of the public around soils as a topic. Lizzie, that might be for you, but if Paul, would you like to have a bash at that as well? But Lizzie, what are your thoughts on artists and soils?
Yeah, I can comment and then I'll let Paul pick up as well. I mean, yes, that was a feature at the most recent conference in Cardiff. We had some artists there over the couple of days. Someone who was making paint out of soil and the images as well, and a couple of others. It was fantastic and it was really great to see them there. So I think it's definitely something that we're keen on. Paul, you might be able to comment a bit more sort of strategically.
Yeah, we missed you at that conference, Willie. So we put a whole session in, actually in a dedicated room that was open for the whole entire conference for artists, and we didn't go to them, they came to us. And I think we could probably go to artists more to get their engagement. But I think some of the work they're doing is really impressive. And also at the Inter-Congress meeting that was held in, where was it last year? In Italy last year, there was also a major session as well involving artists. And that again had a whole entire session, and there was an art exhibit next to it. So yeah, it's something we're definitely working on, and we really appreciate that this is a really good way to make soils more accessible and of greater interest to a broader group of people as well.
Super, thank you both. We have a question about this year's annual conference. So been mention of the conference being scheduled for December in Manchester, and the question is whether we've got a firm date for that. I think the answer is not yet, but I'm happy to be corrected. Not yet. Let's leave it at not yet.
I was going to say the person that would know Dom or Christine in the background, they'll pop in the chat if there's a known date.
That's being put in that it'll be the first week of December, 1st to 5th of December.
Super. Thank you.
It's composing both the annual conference and the early careers conference. So both of them together span the whole week, but each of them won't span the whole week.
Thanks both. And there's a question, just a point highlighted here, worth mentioning, that the classification course focuses on world reference base. That might go on for you, Lizzie, just if you want to say a little bit more about what the world reference base is.
Yeah, that unfortunately I haven't actually attended one of those courses. I don't know whether, Paul, you could elaborate on that.
When the classification course is taught, it is taught via the world reference base, and also I think they also include some regional classification as well, if I'm right, Alan. World reference base tends to be what's used most internationally, as opposed to USDA, which is used in countries where America's got a larger influence, I guess. There tends to be less training based on world reference base and more on USDA, and I think the world reference base is quite relevant. Type anything else in. Alex Allen is one of the people who delivers the course.
Lovely. Thank you both. Question from Adrian at the University of West of England. He says he's got a lot of undergrads who become interested in soils, and could there be merit in encouraging a university course that encompasses a defined list of key skills and content relating to soils, or does that kind of list already exist? Does that structure exist somewhere?
So on our website, there are core competencies that are listed, but I think it's something we need to develop more at that kind of university level, particularly within if it's within a junior level undergraduate course or a more senior undergraduate course as well. And I think it's an interesting point that's raised as well, that soils is taught all over the place, and these students are clearly being taught soil science, or they wouldn't be developing an interest in it. And as a society, I think we need to offer material to make the life of an overworked academic easier, and to make the material they're presenting much more interesting. And there's no point 50 people clambering around trying to create their own material when we could have some resources that help everybody. And I mean, I've used BSCube to produce flowcharts for doing soil texture that are absolutely brilliant, and I use those in my teaching, and I hope that people do in other institutions as well. So I think it's something we should be looking at, and that's where looking across education offerings across the UK and looking back historically at what was taught, looking at obviously towards the future of what's needed now. There's much more of social sciences that we need to consider in soil science as well. So putting all that together, I think, is a really important thing that we should be delivering.
Super, thank you both. There is a follow-up question which Christine's addressed, but I'll articulate it now for everybody because it is closely related. And the question is effectively, someone's interested in knowing more about what careers might be available that are related to soils, and potentially switching from a current career into a more soils focused career. So both of you, Lizzie and Paul, have had fairly diverse backgrounds around the topic, either kind of academically and or in the world of commerce. Do you have some examples for the types of career that might be available in soils, and or where more information might be available around soils and careers in soils?
I think you go first, Paul.
No, go, Lizzie. I was asking if you wanted to go first.
I think it's a real diverse range of careers. From obviously we've got academic careers like Paul and others that work within universities, but we also deliver that sort of research and consultancy within the private sector as well. You're going to have jobs within government, DEFRA, Natural England, the Environment Agency. Then you'll have jobs more working with developers, addressing issues of managing soils and the development sites. I think there is, and Christine can pop in the chat a link, or correct me if I'm wrong. I think there might be a series of case studies that we've done on some of the members, sort of highlighting people from different backgrounds and different careers. I'm sure I've missed a huge number there of different types of careers. Paul, you might be able to add a couple.
Yeah, so there's also blog posts like the one from Jess Potts that I mentioned. And to put it into context, when I've looked at recent graduates, they're getting jobs right away. And there are environmental consultancies getting in touch with me, asking me, are there any students that you've got coming through to work on a range of different tasks, everything from helping with construction of large infrastructure projects all the way through to on-farm advisory work as well. So there seems to be a huge demand and also a skill gap at present. And I think there's also a greater diversity of careers than there were 10 years ago for people in soil science. So there's lots of good opportunities, everything from desk-based data type work to being out in the field and actually taking samples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd certainly I'd echo both those sentiments from my personal / professional basis. I describe myself these days as soil science adjacent rather than a pure soil scientist, and largely because I work in the water division of an environmental consultancy rather than the soils division. But I've been very interested in the impact on soils of applying waste materials and non-waste materials. Now very interested in the relationship between soils and water. Have colleagues who are very interested in soils and construction and how we manage soil ecosystems, how we transplant soil ecosystems. So yeah, it's an extremely diverse field. And it relates to a question I jotted down as we were going along for both of you, Paul and Lizzie, as to where you think the kind of growth or development areas might be in the topic of soils and or soil science, because certainly reflecting back in the 1990s, it became a bit of a Cinderella subject, and that might well have been because it crosses so many different disciplines. I think we can probably all agree that soils as a topic are only going to increase in interest and relevance to society. But I just wondered if either of you had kind of any particular areas, topics, aspects that you thought would be worth highlighting to our audience today. Perhaps Lizzie, if I can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think across the board, I struggled to think of areas where it's not going to increase. We did a session yesterday with the apprenticeship course at Cranfield, where we were speaking to new people joining that course about careers in soil science, and was highlighting that massive increase interest in soils and awareness of the importance of soils and the damage that we've done to soils. So I think there's continued need for people that can understand the impact that we've had on soils and can support more sustainable soil management into the future. So I mean, I definitely think it's an exciting time to be a soil scientist.
And I think also we're coming into completely new era now. So there's people with data and AI skills, for instance, where they're now applying that to soil science. The one development I've noticed is a lot of people are getting jobs in these carbon accounting houses where they get paid quite a lot of money to basically look at storing carbon within soils. And there is a lot more on kind of bridging between understanding basic scientific processes in terms of how soils work and then applying that into policy and gathering evidence as well. And that's something where I think we have to be careful that we are gathering appropriate evidence and it's being acted on appropriately.
Yeah, thank you both. I steered clear of the carbon in soils specific question, Paul. It is an area both of very significant commercial interest and / controversy in terms of how we go about that and how we deliver robust data. And curiously enough, there is a related question in the Q&A around quality standards for commercial soil services such as agricultural land classification. And the question is whether there's a role for BS Cubed to formalize quality standards, whether that's for ALC or for other kind of professional aspects. Paul, perhaps you'd like to articulate a view.
There definitely is. So we do have guidance notes that are being published, but we need to formalize that much more. There's a potential of the society moving more towards a chartered status, so that that professionalism is embedded within the society as well. And ensuring quality control, both of the material produced and the people producing it, really should be within the society's remit. And that is something we are looking at in quite a lot of detail.
Any thoughts, Lizzie, from your perspective?
I thought Paul covered that very well. I was just going to flag some of the notes that we've got on the website, which Paul picked up. Yeah.
Super. Thank you both. And there's a question around flagging. It's been addressed in the chat there about publishing the breakdown of careers that members do have. And yeah, I was going to flag the find an expert button on our website, but the link is in the chat there. So that's the final question that's come in the Q&A. I do have a kind of a more society relevant question. It's not about the topic, but about involvement and what options there are for our membership and others to get involved in our activities. You mentioned the various kind of outreach that we do, the various training courses that we offer. Are there other ways that folk can get involved, either in committees or other ways that we go about delivering our work? And possibly one, Lizzie, would you like to take one first?
Yeah, absolutely. If people are interested in getting involved, there'll definitely be a role for them. I know we've got some vacancies at the moment on some of our committees. Have a look at recent newsletters, because I know that that's been included there. Obviously, coming to the meetings, we've got our regional discussion groups, join those. I flagged the various outreach activities. If that was of interest to anyone, please feel free to come directly to me. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities to get involved, and we'd be really keen to hear from people. Paul, did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to echo what you said. It's basically the more the merrier, and it is basically the members that make the society. So anyone who's really keen to get involved, you can talk to people who represent your regional groups, and also just with anyone within BS Cubed, and we can definitely find roles for people.
Super. Thank you both. So it just left for me to close today's webinar. So on behalf of the British Society of Soil Science, I'd like to express our thanks to Paul and to Lizzie for presenting today. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. A quick feedback survey will pop up when you leave the webinar, and we hope you'll just take the few minutes necessary just to fill that in, so that we can continuously improve our offer to our members and non-members. Thank you to Dom and to the rest of the BS Cube office team for coordinating this event. The recording of this webinar will be available after the event on our YouTube channel, and our next webinar is scheduled to be on Wednesday, the 5th of February. So the details for that are yet to be finalised, so keep an eye out on our website for how to register and the topic and who will be presenting, but it's the 5th of February. And I hope to see you at future events, and in the meantime, thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.